But what I'm just trying to press is that what we've seen is an organisation that's turned its back on its history. The Royal College embodied the notion that nursing was a vocation and that your absolute duty was to your patient and not to yourself. There's been a coup in the organisation in the last few years with the emergence of Pat Cullen as the General Secretary, and that has represented standing the entire tradition of nursing on its head.
What an interesting take. What do you think, Joanna? So the conclusion is we're all too selfish now to have any sort of occupation in which you abnegate your own needs for the sake of the person that you're caring for.
Well, I do generally think that there is some truth in that, but I think ultimately if you don't have a decent wage, then you're not able to do your job properly either.
No, I would agree with that, but what I'm trying to say is it's how you go about getting it. And remember, a pay review body has come up with what is relatively a very large settlement. We are in the middle of the most serious financial crisis since the Second World War, and these people, you uttered the figure, 19%. Now,
I mean, I agree that figure does seem eye-watering, but we've got to remember that inflation is above 10%, so you need a pay rise of 10% just to stay still. Now, I feel bad about nurses asking for this amount of money because it seems to me that huge amounts of our money, taxpayers' money, my money, is going into the NHS, but that doesn't necessarily correspond to nurses' salaries. I mean, I wonder how much of that money that goes into the NHS is going to managers, to bureaucrats, to equality and diversity officers, to people who are not actually on the front line. And I actually don't think nurses are that well paid in the grand scheme of things. And whereas those managers and bureaucrats and equality and diversity officers were able to work from home during lockdown, it was nurses who were actually out there on the wards. GPs might not have been. GPs stayed at home and saw you through Zoom, but it was the nurses who were out on the front line. And I actually think they do deserve a pay rise.
Let's look at some of the numbers then properly. So real pay for nurses has declined by £5,000 since 2010, fallen by £1,800 this year alone. 40,000 nurses left the NHS in the past year. That's 1 in 9 of the workforce. What should the government do now, David? What does Steve Barclay do now? Because it's not going to go away.
They're not going to go away, and they mustn't go away for obvious reasons. What Steve Barclay is doing is something very remarkable. He is the first minister to begin to grasp the problem that faces this country.